This is the Art Life video blog, day 170. I'm Daniel Bourdet.
I'm Jacob Wolf. Thank you for having me here, Daniel. It's been a pleasure. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born in Portland back in 1981. I lived here till I was only 2, sadly. My parents decided to move to the Salem area, so I grew up in a small town called Jefferson. My mom's an artist. I have a lot of artists in my family. So I had a pretty strong, I guess, artistic foundation early on. A lot of encouragement.
Did you get your inspiration from those people, or did you get inspired from outside sources?
Definitely from outside sources. I mean, I got a lot of encouragement from my mom and, from my sister and my family, but definitely I took my own path, for sure. Oh yes, I love that. Some of my earlier inspirations were probably like Pushead. He did a lot of illustrations for Metallica covers and stuff like that, posters. And comic books. I was really into comic books when I was a kid.
What were some of your favorite comic books?
As a kid, Batman and X-Men and Spider-Man. And then later on it was more like Lobo and Sandman and the Max.
Okay.
More kind of the psychological, dark.
I watched the Max recently, but I've never read it.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, they took a lot of Sam Keefe's artwork and put it into the series, but I definitely recommend reading it. He's amazing. He did the story and the art, kind of like Eric Powell. Is it Eric Powell? Yeah, Eric Powell from The Goon.
Okay. I'm not familiar, but
yes, Sam Keefe's amazing.
So do you feel that these artists, these styles, show through in your work?
They're starting to more and more. I mean, my history as an artist has been really varied. When I went to college, I was studying 2D animation. At that time, I was really into Don Hertzfeldt and Mike Judge, and really edgy 2D animation. And then I got into CG, and I got into CG for a long time, and had marginal success in the CG area.
When did you go to school, and when were you messing around with animation, CG?
I started at U of O in the multimedia program in I think 2002, and I was really hell-bent on being just the next Mike Judge or something, producing some sort of short film. It was somewhere along the lines of Beavis and Butthead, or it was something that dealt with subculture, something that dealt with sort of the decline of Western civilization, I guess, in some way or the other. Some kind of a commentary on youth, the state of youth in America today, I guess. And then a teacher basically told me that the 2D animation world is shrinking, so I'd better hop on the CG bandwagon if I had any hope of actually having a career. And moral of the story is never do anything because it's going to give you a job, boys and girls. Definitely follow your heart. Because for me, I have no problem with CG, but for me, it wasn't that great of a fit. I put years of my life into CG, and I had an internship with a small gaming company out of the Bay Area, and then I had an interview at but I just don't think I was corporately minded enough. I wasn't really that stoked about working on the next M&M's commercial. I think they sort of sensed that, so that even though they called me again the next year to check up, to follow up and see what I was still doing, I had kind of gone a different direction by then. I was actually doing web design at that point, doing like Flash websites. And as we all know, Flash has kind of gone the way of the dodo, because of the iPhone.
Mm.
And that was around like 2009. I started at U of O 2002. Did I mention that?
2002.
Around 2002, somewhere in there. So around the time that CG was really starting to blow up, in the time that bubble was kind of starting to burst. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of a tech bubble where there was all this demand for a long time, and then all of a sudden there was very little demand.
You're good.
I left my fan on, I left my amp on, all this white noise going on. So yeah, that brought me to a point where I was at a crossroads, and I just decided I didn't really want to pursue being a hard programmer. I didn't really want to pursue a few more years of education in computer science. So I went back to pursuing my roots of traditional art.
Is there a subject matter that you go to, that you're drawn to?
Yeah, there's so many things. For a long time I was just sort of stuck on figure drawing and landscapes. For like 3 years I focused on, simultaneously I was developing all these ideas, these conceptual, surrealistic ideas. But I really have a great love for nature. I grew up in the country, and I was surrounded by hundreds of acres of just nature in every direction, and it's always been a big part of me, and I think it's something that my soul kind of needs, for nourishment.
Definitely, especially when you've been around it. I think all people need it, but if you don't know the feeling of being around it, then you don't have anything to miss.
It's true, yeah.
I'm from Nebraska, so there's a lot of country, a lot of nature out there, and definitely find myself missing it a lot, like being in the city.
But it's not too far from
right.
You can
I'm
just go 20 miles in any direction.
I'm just kind of stuck without a vehicle. Like, I go by public transit everywhere, so I'm reliant on friends to get out of the city, and with conflicting schedules, it just doesn't really happen a lot.
No, I understand. Yeah, I would be lost without my minivan.
So nature and the human form.
Yeah, those were things. Those things are addictive. Like being out in nature and painting from nature and drawing from the figure. To me at least, I can't speak for everybody, but for me at least, those things. There's a natural high. You connect with the scenery that you're trying to translate on a canvas, and then you also connect with that human form and that person that's like standing up on a model stand, and it's all just like foundational training, obviously. And I always had other places I wanted to take it, and eventually I have. but like realism is very grounded in the ideal of beauty, the ideal of nature. Whereas what I'm trying to do is sort of convey a reality that's been manipulated or corrupted or transformed by human hands. So most of the pieces that I've been doing in the last 5 years or so have been either one or the other. Either studies of nature in the human form, or else these narratives that sort of, excuse me, this sort of speak to a higher reality or a higher truth.
When you said that you wanted to return to your roots, was that referring to like nature and human form, or was that referring to something else?
Oh, that was basically just returning to like traditional media. As far as as opposed to digital media, I had been frustrated with
has your interest in subject matter changed?
Definitely, yeah. There's still a lot of similarities. I'm still very into cartoons. I'm still very into a lot of the same form languages and things that are derived from biology or psychology. But the process is completely different. CG and the whole digital world is so endless. There's just endless potential for refinement and change, and I just kind of got tired of the non-permanence of it. I wanted something that would stick.
Had an end result.
Yeah, that forced me, basically facilitated a process that forced me to actually keep a mark. It's like, no, that mark could be a little better. I could change that a little bit.
Where are some of the places that you've been able to show your work?
I've shown my work at the Good Gallery off of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
I've shown my work at pretty much every school I've gone to. I've been in the PNTA shows. I've been in I should mention that I also went to PNTA for a semester. It was too expensive. At U of O, and right now I'm showing at the Eastside Deli.
Right on.
And I'm trying to push out more. I've actually done mostly commission work. I've done some anatomy illustration. People have come to me a lot for illustrations they want shown in their waiting rooms or whatever in medical clinics.
Interesting.
That sort of thing. So, and anatomy has always been a real passion of mine. I love anatomy. My dog's gonna make her bed in your coat.
That's fine. It's comfortable. I do that too.
Sorry.
What are some of the things that you're currently working on?
Well, currently I'm working on a series. This is the first one. It's called Saccharine, and it's sort of based around a manipulative culture, I guess, or a culture where people are unable to develop or grow in a way that is organic, I guess. It's controlled. There's this sort of hand of fate, or whatever you would call it. This sort of outside
from the
influence.
moment you're born, they cut off the tip of your penis.
Basically. Not mine, but...
Well, okay.
Is that a TMI? I'm sorry.
Well, they did mine.
Most people say, oh no. But yeah, totally. It's like there are environmental factors, that affect and manipulate people, and we're not always like conscious of them. And I guess I'm, through this series, I'm trying to address a stunted, arrested development of culture and self, I guess, that I feel like is happening not just in America, but in many places.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too political or point too many fingers at America, but
That's a really relevant subject matter, I guess, thing to talk about. It's definitely a lot of manipulation of the information that the public receives, and poison being put in our water, and
yeah, and just like what opportunities are available for people really to take advantage of. People who are disadvantaged generally stay disadvantaged because they're looked at as a commodity. And it's pretty sad. But aside from paintings, I'm also working on a graphic novel right now.
really,
It's called Exo City, and it's sort of still in its germinal stages, but it's basically ink and watercolor. I've got these are just a couple of the concept images I can grab real quick. I don't know.
do you have the story written already?
The story is, probably 40% written, but these are just some sort of like environmental concept scenes. It's kind of
Really
hard to see.
pretty.
There's some like characters, some like wasteland wanderers. That's pretty hard to see.
Right.
That's probably the most finished out of these ones.
I think you like the audience will definitely get a good feel for your style through these. I love them; they're great.
Yeah, it's
Remind me to take photos. I often forget to take photos of people's work.
it's a problem. We'll remind you. But, yeah, it's sort of hard to see on an iPhone camera, or on a smartphone camera. And like I've also been working on these like little. These are really just totally for fun. They're just these little sort of mutant creatures that I'm gonna hang at the deli, and hopefully people will.
Is the deli an ongoing show for you?
For now, it is.
Sweet.
I mean, for the next month or two, I'm hoping. But yeah, they're just sort of like little mutants, little mutant pets. Something that is about as non-serious as I'm capable of, I guess, at this point. Aside from landscapes. Landscapes are super non-serious, but they're also very process intensive, very technical, but it's not like I'm trying to do that for the rest of my life. I don't want to be the next Bob Ross.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the story of your graphic novel? Like whatever information you're willing to.
Yeah, it's sort of about this like genetically engineered city, I guess, that was sort of created by this like super race, and they learned how to sort of program DNA like a computer programmer programs code. Basically, so they could create this city that is essentially grown from eggs. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So it's like this hatchling grows out of an egg, and it's programmed to grow in a certain, like it can potentially grow into anything based on what it's programmed to be, whether it's a vehicle or a building or another individual. And basically you just feed it, and then it grows into that thing because that's what it's programmed to be, just not unlike what we are. But it at a certain point grows consciousness and becomes out of control of its creator, and it actually enslaves its creator and essentially runs rampant throughout this whole world. And it's not unlike Mordor in a certain sense, where it just sort of, it's like this empire that sort of just keeps growing throughout this world, completely uncontrolled, completely self-managed, and the story essentially is a party of people that came out of this other development, like what is left of humanity. And when I say humanity, I also mean mutants that were created in the process of this city's development. Essentially, it's a party of these rebels, or it's sort of a motley crew, I guess, of like really, I guess, very disadvantaged. Very, like, some of them are pretty gangster. It's definitely not a typical hero's story in terms of its cast of characters. But essentially, they are figuring out a way to reverse this sort of evolution of the city.
Wow.
There's a lot more to it than that. That's definitely glazed over, and I don't want to, like...
I'm sure it is. I'm sure there's all sorts of detail, but
I don't want to go too much into it because I will, never stop talking and rambling.
Is this, like, is graphic novels something that you want to continue doing, or is it just like one graphic novel that you had the idea for?
No, I definitely want to keep pushing in that direction, like
more so than like fine art or illustration.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't think the two are necessarily mutually exclusive. It is illustration in a sense, but you can really put a lot of yourself and a lot of innovation into a graphic novel. I don't plan on doing a lot of it digitally. I plan on coloring it with watercolor for the most part. Sort of like ink and watercolor. So it's definitely the direction I'm going in, and then everything else from that is sort of a sidetrack, something I'm doing on the side.
So do you have more ideas for graphic novels after this one?
I have a few ideas for like shorter comic strips and that sort of thing, but I feel like this idea is big enough to keep me busy for a long time.
Do you
and
have
I may need to bring in a writer. I may need to bring in a little help, honestly, because it is actually proving to be kind of overwhelming. And
I could see that.
Just the concept art and the overarching sort of framework of the world, has proven to be a big challenge, and that's still where I'm at right now. And I've gotten about 15 pages into the actual story, which is almost enough for a first issue. And essentially, I just want to sort of release it issue by issue.
Do you have a time frame that you're shooting for, or is it just kind of when it happens?
It is ultimately just when it happens, but optimistically, I'm hoping for a year to 2 years for like the first 15 to 20 pages, and then produce another one after that, and then compile it. When it's actually all finished, compile it into a graphic novel.
Right on. So do you have any other goals, aspirations, hopes, dreams that we haven't covered?
Well, I would, someday like to own my own studio full of other artists, but that's definitely far in the future, and that would be obviously based on the success of this graphic novel. It's something that's sort of been germinating for a long time. I mean, I've always been really interested in the idea of divergence of class and what causes the divergence of class, and so it's sort of an extension of that. And I've done a lot of paintings and a lot of drawings that are about this sort of separation of the rich and poor, the industrial manufacturing world and the elite administrative executive world. And for me, this feels like sort of a fulfillment of that idea as much as it possibly could be. It just feels like I could really say everything I want to say with Exo City.
Right on. That's the title?
Yeah,
Exo City?
EXO City. Kind of like exoskeleton.
Right.
So, I mean, it has lots of different insects.
Outer City?
Well, it's
Is
like
exo outer?
Exoskeleton, outer skeleton. It's basically the idea is that, and this is where I don't want to give too much away, but it's like most of the DNA that is being used in the construction of all of these mechanical things and structural things is insect DNA.
Which would make a lot of sense.
Because they have an exoskeleton, right? So it's like
very mechanical, like hinge-like.
Yeah, totally.
Moving parts.
And if you take that and you pair it with other DNA, like say bioluminescence from like bottom-dwelling fish, then you can have lights. Don't want to give too much away, but yeah, it's basically
Exo City. Can't wait for it.
So yeah, I'm pretty into Intex right now, and as you can see, like all these little drawings I've been doing,
are rad.
They're all based on insects.
Very insect-like.
So it's like insects. This is like an insect dog.
I like the bows.
It's called Princess, or Time to Feed Princess, I think I call it. But
I think the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the gallery that is coming up very, very soon. You'll be one of the last artists invited to join the show. I haven't made the announcement to anybody that you'll be joining, but love to have you be a part of the show. Make room for you somewhere, somehow.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Even if I'm standing out in front, with a sign, it won't be the first time.
I had one artist recently that I had hit up a while ago, didn't answer, like release posters and everything. Finally, I was like, yeah, man, I'd love to be a part of it. And I'm like, all right, I'll make room for you. And then I had another artist recently that for some reason I thought she had said no, but she had said yes, and I didn't put her on any of the posters or anything. So making room for her. And this interview, making room for you now. I want to put as much art on the walls as humanly possible. I want as much reason for people to come in and to stay, like as much attraction as possible. Diversity as well. Yeah, it's going to be insane. So, June 24th will be the 4th effing Friday of this month. Will also be a giant gallery for all of the artists that I've interviewed on the Art Life video blog. I believe I'm up to nearly 50 visual artists, and I'm sorry, nearly 60 visual artists and like 10 musical acts. It's 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. There's a bar, not free booze this time, but there will be a bar so you can get your fix. There will be body painting, live painting, a lot of music. Get a poster and bring a Sharpie and get this signed by all the artists, because that's going to be a great opportunity to meet all the artists.
Totally excited to be a part of it, man. It's awesome news to know that I can slide in there at the last minute.
Yeah.
It's really great.
There's going to be there's going to be a silent auction, like a fine art auction, and it's a benefit for my friend Marissa and her family. Her brother recently passed away and accumulated a lot of medical bills due to like cancer and stuff. So that all of the funds from that go to her and her family to make up for medical bills for her brother. There's also a raffle. So up until 9 o'clock, there's no door charge, but every $5 that you donate to the Art Life video blog, 4th effing Friday, you get a raffle ticket, and all of the artists involved have the opportunity to donate something into the raffle pile, and all day long we'll be raffling art that you can get from incredible artists for very cheap. $5 a ticket, you get something from some phenomenal artists who are going to be there. And at 9 o'clock, it's a $5 cover charge. I think that's all the information on the show. There's a lot of stuff going on at that day.
Well, I'm happy to contribute, some pieces for the raffle and whatever,
Oh man,
a couple pieces.
thank you. Thank you. That's huge.
I got so much stuff going
on. It's really been a pleasure talking with you, getting to know you a little bit.
Thanks for coming out to Montebello.
So I met this gentleman. What was it? It was like right after Halloween.
Yeah, it was. Well,
not long ago. Like last year.
You would know better because
it was either right after Halloween or it was right after my birthday.
It was right after your birthday. It was right after some party because my friend had mentioned we just missed out on this big party.
The 4th effing Friday gallery before
we were on our way
before.
back from the gorge, and he was like, "We gotta stop by this house, dude."
So the day after my gallery, they show up. We're like, we hear there's a gallery here. We wanted to come check it out. I was like, well, come on in, check it out. There's still art up. So they came in. My girlfriend and I just took some drugs and we're starting to feel it. And these guys come in, we don't know who the hell they are, and then one guy draws my dog. And what was your friend's name?
Todd Jones.
Do you still know Todd?
I do know Todd, yeah. He's sort of out of town, but
yeah, I want to interview Todd. He's a very interesting character.
Yeah, he definitely makes an impression, that's for sure.
But yeah, it was a great meeting day. And for some reason, the circle got connected and now we're doing an interview. Like,
yeah, like my old roommate is the brother of your roommate.
Connor's brother?
Connor's brother Sam used to live here.
Okay.
In that bunk bed up there.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So yeah, that's how I knew Connor.
I don't think I've met Sam.
Probably not. No, he left a couple years ago. But you gave me that awesome scam picture up there. Do you see it?
Oh hell yeah! You got it. He's got my art hanging up
Scam.
here. I'm honored. I'm blushing. All right, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Art Life Video Blog, day 170. I'm Jacob Wolf.
Dan Bourdet.
Daniel Bourdet.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. Catch you later. Bye.